as card makers, we tend to save a lot of scrap pieces of paper, right? Okay, I'll admit it. I have a whole drawer full, and well, probably more. And I bet you probably have a stash of leftover paper scraps lying around too. So today I want to share 3 simple card ideas that will help you put those scraps to good use. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I have 3 simple card ideas that are perfect for using those small scrap pieces of patterned paper that you are saving. Now, the cards showcase some fun ways to use those really small, thin pieces of scrap paper. So go ahead and grab your stash of scraps and follow along with me. By the end of this video, you will have 3 simple card ideas to help you use up those scraps. And the best part is, you can use these card designs over and over again with any scraps that you have on hand. For the latest card making ideas, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on the little bell so you will be notified each time I upload a new video. Now, the cards in this video feature some leftover scraps from cards that I created with a new product suite called Ornate Garden. Now, this gorgeous suite of products is going to be available in the new Stampin Up Catalog, which comes out in June. Now, the good news is you don't have to wait till June. You can get it starting today, April 1st, through May 31st as an exclusive early release product. And yes, this is not an April Fool's joke. For a complete list of supplies and all of the step-by-step instructions for creating these cards, feel free to download the printable tutorial. And as an added bonus, if you shop with this month's host code, I will send you an additional printable tutorial featuring 8 cards created with products from the new Ornate Garden Suite. So you can find the host code and more information in the description below this video. Okay, so let's dive in. Now, this first card is one of my favorite ways to use up scrap pieces of paper. It is perfect for using up patterned paper pieces that are about a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inches wide. So we're going to start with a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white cardstock. So go ahead and find 2 scrap pieces of paper that are approximately a 1/2 inch wide and 2 that are about 3/4 inches wide. Now, these pieces will need to be at least 5 inches long because we want them to hang over the edges of this particular white cardstock, which measures 4 inches. So they got to be longer than 4 inches. So you're going to start by stamping a greeting diagonally in the center of the white cardstock. Then we're going to start with the 3/4 inch scrap pieces. So we're going to adhere one above and one below the greeting that we stamped. And be sure to leave the ends hang off the side of the cardstock. We will be trimming those off later. Next, you're going to grab the 1/2 inch wide scrap pieces of paper. And again, you're going to adhere one above and one below the designer paper, the 3/4 inch designer paper that you added. And again, leave the ends hang off the side of the cardstock. Now go ahead and take your scissors and trim off the excess patterned paper that is hanging off the edge of the white cardstock. Once you have everything trimmed up, you can go ahead and adhere the white cardstock to your card front or your card base. Then for the finishing touch, go ahead and embellish the card with some of those gold gems or whatever embellishments you have on hand. And there you go. How simple and pretty is this card? Again, this is one of my favorite ways to use up scrap pieces of paper. Okay, the second card idea features the use of scrap papers that are about 1 inch wide. So this is a fun panel card design that has a lot of different uses. So we're going to start again with a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of cardstock. In this case, I'm using some early espresso cardstock to accent the patterns that are in my paper. Then you're going to find 3 1-inch strips of patterned paper scraps. Now be sure to look for scraps that have a small pattern on them. You're going to cut 2 of the strips down to a 1 by 3 3/4 inch size, and then you're going to cut the 3rd strip down to 1 by 2.5 inches. Then you're going to cut a 4th strip, but this time from a piece of cardstock. So this piece measures 1 by 2.5 inches, so it's the same size as that 3rd strip that we cut. So find a scrap piece that you can use to create the center panel now. Now the center panel measures 1 3/8 by 2 5/8 inches. So you can find something that is slightly larger and just cut it down to that size. Then once you have all the pieces cut out, arrange them on the 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of cardstock. Once you have them arranged the way you want them, then go ahead and adhere them one by one to that cardstock piece. Now I find it's much easier to lay out the pattern before trying to adhere the pieces. And I typically leave about a 1/4 inch space in between each piece as I adhere them. Then once you have completed adhering all of the pattern paper pieces, you can go ahead and stamp a greeting and adhere it to the bottom of the card. Then for the finishing touch, go ahead and embellish the card with some of those gold gems or whatever embellishments you have on hand. Now it turns out so cool, and it's such a fun design and a great way to use up scrap pieces of paper. Okay, this last card idea is another panel card design featuring a combination of some small and larger pieces of scrap paper. So again, you're going to start with a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of cardstock. You're going to find a scrap piece of pattern paper that is at least 2 inches wide. And you're going to cut it down to 2 by 3 1/2 inches. And that's going to get adhered to the center of this white cardstock piece. Next, you will need to find a few 3/4 inch wide pieces of scrap paper. So for this, you want to use a smaller print than the previous one, and you want to use a print that will complement that center piece. So once you've found those pieces, you can go ahead and cut them at 3/4 by 3 1/2 inches. And then you'll be adhering one piece to each side of that center piece. Now the last part of this card design features one of the Ornate Garden decorative dies. So I created a 1/2 inch wide fancy edge on each side of the panels. So you can use a die cut or a punch or even just a 1/2 inch piece of scrap paper. Now these pieces measure 1/2 inch by 3 1/2 inches. So once you have created these pieces, you can go ahead and adhere them to each of the sides of those smaller 3/4 inch wide panels. And then again, you're going to stamp a sentiment on a little scrap piece of paper. You can mat it out with some cardstock like I did here and embellish the front of the card. And then we're also going to embellish the card with just a few more gold gems. Okay, so there you go. Now you have 3 simple card making ideas for using up scraps. Just think of all the cards you can make with the scraps that you already have on hand. And if you enjoyed these card ideas, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.